On the outskirts of a quiet Midwestern town, 16-year-old Emma Carter lived a simple life on her family's farm. Every morning before sunrise, she helped her mother milk the cows, feed the chickens, and load fresh produce into their old pickup truck. Her hands were often rough from work, her jeans faded, and her boots dusty, but she carried herself with a quiet pride that came from honest labor. When she started attending Riverside High, however, her humble background became the target of mockery. A group of boys from wealthy families, led by Jason Miller, the son of a local businessman, saw her as an easy victim. They called her "cowgirl," laughed at her old truck, and made jokes about her smell of hay and soil. Emma tried to ignore them, focusing instead on her studies and the dream of one day becoming a veterinarian. But every day the bullying grew worse, snide comments turned into shoves, and shoves into humiliation. One Friday afternoon, Jason and his friends cornered her in the parking lot after school. They kicked at her boots, called her farm trash, and dumped milk over her backpack. When Emma tried to walk away, one of them threw her books on the ground. Her cheeks burned with embarrassment as laughter echoed through the lot. She wanted to scream, but her voice trembled. She bent down to gather her papers when Jason sneered, "What's the matter, cowgirl? Gonna cry for mommy?" That line hit her heart like a knife. What they didn't know was that her mother, Agent Sarah Carter, wasn't just a farmer, she was an undercover FBI operative, living quietly to protect her daughter from a dangerous past. The next few days were unbearable. Emma began skipping lunch to avoid the cafeteria, hiding in the library instead. But one afternoon, as she walked home along the dusty country road, a black SUV screeched to a stop beside her. Jason and his friends jumped out, each carrying a baseball bat. "Where you running off to, cowgirl?" Jason laughed. "You think you're better than us." The others surrounded her, tapping the bats against the dirt. Fear froze her feet to the ground. She clutched her backpack close, her voice shaking as she whispered, "Leave me alone." But they only laughed louder. Jason took a step forward, swinging the bat close enough for her to feel the wind against her arm. "Let's see how tough a farm girl really is," he sneered. The first shove sent her stumbling backward. Her knees scraped the pavement, her palms stung, and tears filled her eyes. They jeered and circled around her like predators toying with prey. Emma's heart pounded in her chest, part terror, part anger. She stood up, defiant despite the pain. "You think this makes you strong?" she said quietly. "You're cowards." Her words, though trembling, struck a nerve. Jason's smirk faded. "You got a big mouth for someone so small," he muttered, raising his bat higher. Just as Emma braced for the hit, the sound of tires screeching cut through the tension. A white SUV roared up the road, dust flying everywhere. The doors swung open, and out stepped Sarah Carter, wearing combat boots, a black jacket, and an expression that could freeze stone. The bullies froze as Sarah approached, her eyes locked on her daughter lying bruised on the ground. "Emma," she cried, rushing to her side. Emma's lip was bleeding, her shirt torn. The sight ignited a fury deep within Sarah's chest, a fury she hadn't unleashed in years. She turned to face the boys, her stance sharp and unflinching. "Step away from my daughter," she said coldly. Jason tried to laugh it off. "What can a mom do, huh?" he mocked, twirling his bat. But Sarah's gaze didn't waver. She reached into her jacket and pulled out her badge, Federal Bureau of Investigation. The golden letters gleamed under the afternoon sun. "Everything," she said. "She's FBI." The color drained from Jason's face. His friends shifted nervously, lowering their bats. But before they could move, 10 black SUVs screeched to a halt behind Sarah. Doors slammed, and 10 FBI agents in tactical gear emerged, surrounding the group with precision. "Weapons down," one agent shouted. The boys panicked, dropping their bats and raising their hands. Sarah knelt beside her daughter again, checking her pulse, whispering softly, "You're safe now, sweetheart." Emma looked up, eyes wide with shock. She had always known her mom was strong, but never imagined this. The agents quickly restrained the bullies, reading them their rights as neighbors peeked out from their homes, stunned by the scene unfolding in the middle of their quiet street. At the local police station, the truth began to unravel. Jason's father tried to intervene, insisting his son was just playing around, but the FBI had already found video evidence from nearby traffic cameras. The footage showed the entire assault, the taunts, the bats, and Emma's fall. The boys were charged with assault, harassment, and intimidation. For years, Sarah had kept her FBI identity secret to keep Emma safe after a major operation against a criminal syndicate. Moving to the countryside was supposed to be their chance at peace. But now, seeing her daughter hurt because of others' cruelty, Sarah realized that silence was no longer an option. She used her connections to ensure justice was served swiftly. Meanwhile, the story spread like wildfire. Local news covered the "Farm Girl FBI Mom" case, turning Emma from a victim into a symbol of resilience. Students at Riverside High who once mocked her now whispered apologies in the hallways. Teachers praised her courage for standing up to bullies. But Emma didn't crave attention, all she wanted was peace. Still, she couldn't forget the look on her mother's face, the mixture of love, anger, and pride. For the first time, she truly understood what it meant when her mom said, "A mother's job never ends." Weeks later, the farm returned to its peaceful rhythm. The morning sun glowed over golden fields, and birds sang as if nothing had ever happened. But something inside Emma had changed. She walked taller, spoke louder, and no longer hid her hands covered in calluses. Her classmates began inviting her to sit with them, and one even asked for help with a science project about animals. Life was far from perfect, but it was healing. Sarah, too, had returned to her quiet life, though every now and then she would receive calls from the bureau asking for assistance. She always smiled and said, "I've got my most important mission right here, raising my daughter." One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Emma turned to her mother and whispered, "Mom, I didn't know you were FBI." Sarah chuckled softly. Sometimes, the strongest people don't show their power until they have to. Emma leaned her head on her shoulder. "Thank you for saving me." Sarah smiled, brushing her daughter's hair gently. "No, sweetheart," she said. "You saved yourself. You stood up even when you were scared, that's real strength." The farm fell silent except for the rustle of wind through the wheat. The world had tried to break a farm girl, but instead, it revealed a warrior. And behind her stood the fiercest protector of all, a mother who could move mountains, or bring the FBI to her knees if it meant saving her child.